Oh, they compete. We've talked.
Have we?
Yeah.
Sorry to
No
interrupt your
worries.
chat. We're going to just try and start moving people over and take a seat. So
Sorry, yeah.
I might. So
But yeah, let's catch up.
tonight's Startup Grind Edinburgh. It's great to see such a good turnout tonight, which I think is probably testament to the quality of the excellent speaker that we're going to have later on. So just a few kind of housekeeping points before we get started. I'm always really interested to just get a feel for the audience. It would be great to get a show of hands. Who's been along to one of our Startup Grind events before? Excellent, great, and you came back, so that's all good. And any newbies, anyone that's trying us out for the first time, so welcome, great to see you. And we've actually been running now in Scotland for nearly 4 years. And just to give you a little background to Startup Grind, Startup Grind is a global community that was founded in Silicon Valley in 2010, really by a group of entrepreneurs that realised it can sometimes be a bit of a lonely journey starting out your business, and we're keen to have a forum to network with like-minded entrepreneurs, but also to learn from entrepreneurial role models and people that have gone on and done exciting things, and we can learn quite a lot from their journey. So there are actually now over 300 Startup City chapters in more than 150 countries around the world. So we are part of and connected to a very big global community. You know, and in terms of tonight's event, it's what's called a fireside chat format, which is our signature format for our events. We do call it a fireside chat, and it is very informal. So it's a conversation. So what I would say is, if you're interested in what we're talking about or the topics, and you've got a question and you'd like to ask a question, please just put your hand up, you know, and I'll bring you into the conversation. It would be great. It's not a formal thing where you need to wait until the end, although there will be chance and time at the end for that as well. And just on that, we're very social as well. We're very active on social media. So we're on @StartupGrindSEO. And we'd really be very grateful if you'd help us spread the word and share the news about our events. So, you know, take photos and, you know, tweet away if you can as well. So just without any further ado, what I'll do is invite our speaker Joy up onto the stage, and I'm going to have a seat. So just by way of a very brief introduction, and Joy will be filling you in on a lot of this in a bit more detail. But as you'll have seen from her bio, Joy is the CEO of Adopt an Intern, AI. Joy joined the Centre for Scottish Public Policy in January 2009 and spun it out from there. We're going to hear about your background and your own story in a bit. But I was interested to see that you've worked with over 800 businesses in different sectors, you know, in that time, and been nominated and successful to win numerous awards as well. So
we've been nominated a lot. I'm not sure we've won numerous awards, but we've certainly been numerously nominated.
Well,
yeah.
very well recognised.
Thank you.
For your
Yes.
achievements, and thank you for that. And so, you know, just to get started, can you just tell me a little bit, Joy, about your own background? Did you grow up in an entrepreneurial family and environment?
No, not at all, actually. I didn't. And it's interesting that you've started with that, actually. I started from people will wonder how this came about, that I am working with graduates and interns. But I came from a family where neither of my parents went to university. So it really wasn't in our DNA to even have that discussion. But I ended up my dad is RAF, and we were I was born in Cyprus. I should go back a little bit here. So there are no roots as such. I then joined the Foreign Office, so even less roots. I'm a bit of a nomad.
You're as international as Startup Grind.
What a nice way of putting it. Not a mongrel.
No, I didn't say that.
So my dad didn't go to university. He joined the RAF when he was 16. And my mum left school as soon as she possibly could. Bless her heart, I think she'll say herself, her spelling never quite recovered. But she didn't go to university either. So as I say, it wasn't really part of our psyche. I was, at the time, my dad had a posting in Lossiemouth, so Scottish. And these people were talking about university again, but it still wasn't in my vocabulary. And it was then that my dad got posted back down to England, and they quickly found me a college to go to. I ended up doing a bilingual secretarial course, and it was almost like an intermediary thing, and then I could decide what I wanted to do. But it was so difficult, so hard, that I actually decided I can't do this anymore. That's enough. 2 years, solid work. I had to do a 3-month course in France as well. It was a lot for a 19-year-old. So that's what I decided I would just do that. But I was very fortunate because the Foreign Office came knocking, and they asked if they did a presentation, and then many of us interviewed. I think the whole course interviewed. It was quite exciting at the time.
So something quite...
Yes, something out of reach, really. And I just presumed there was no chance. But only 2 of us got accepted. And that it was something very strange for me, because I was a very average student. Even at typing, I was an average student. But they saw something. And so the 2 of us travelled to London, and they were my university. They really educated me, and I made some amazing friends. I learnt an awful lot, and I went abroad, gained confidence, and got promotions while I was in situ. So that was a great opportunity for me. But I've never talked about this before because it's never really been necessary. I've never thought of it as being relevant. But I was talking to a wonderful lady the day before I spoke to Lisa and about this today. And Mary Duffy, I'll give her a shout out if you know Mary, amazing lady. She told me about her rather poor Irish background, one of many children. And she'd also gone to a school where university wasn't discussed. She was very bright though, so she did end up at university. But while she was there, she didn't have the same language as everybody else. She was at a disadvantage. Her opening up made me then open up about my background, and I suddenly realized where my values come from. It just dawned on me. She had got me to speak, and I thought that's it. I just presumed that I had a value and it was all about justice and fairness and paid internships. And then I realized why. Because I too hadn't thought about it before. I didn't ever see myself coming from a disadvantaged background, but I didn't have the vocabulary that lots of other people do where their parents have been to university. And my parents certainly didn't have the networking opportunities. But I'd never related the reason I wanted to do this to that. So that was an enlightening moment for me.
And so that very much has fed into some of the values as you've grown, adopting in turn.
Totally.
Some of the things that you're seeking
Totally.
to achieve with that.
Yes, indeed.
And we often ask that question about people's back. The questions I'm really interested in, entrepreneurs, would you say that they're born or that they're made?
Born or made, that's interesting. I'm sure it's a bit of both. Yep. But I certainly wasn't born like that. I don't believe I was. But there was certainly something in me. When I got that opportunity to go to London, I didn't hesitate.
Yep.
But I don't think either of my parents had that.
So it's that energy to take a chance, maybe.
Yeah, and even to this day, I love a challenge.
Okay.
I love a challenge. I love a chance. I love to be taken out of my comfort zone, which today is, I have to say. I am well out of my comfort zone today. I've got a video at the back. That is not my scene. Not happy. Not happy. It's mic'd up. Ugh. So yes, I do actually love that. I complain about it, but once I've done it, I'm through that comfort zone into the next stage, and I've learned, and I feel stronger for it.
And you know that you can, and the next,
yeah.
We all grow like that.
And I know I can, and therefore I think that's how I'm able to nurture graduates and my team, because I know it's possible, and I'm happy to try and get them to do that too.
Fantastic. So you had a very interesting and varied career in the Foreign Office, and you travelled to various different countries. But one of the things that I was interested in was, did you have the opportunity to learn from interesting role models and people that supported your development in that time?
Role models. There were a couple of people in the Foreign Office who, they not father figures as such, but they really took me under their wing. I think they saw that I had less confidence or less self-esteem more so than other people, but they also saw something, and they encouraged me to go further than I ever wanted to, really, or felt I was capable of. But certainly without those people, I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't be where I am. They gave me so much more confidence than I had.
Would you encourage people that are starting out or in their career to seek out people that can?
Yes, mentors is a big thing. You're right. We have a mentoring program which we started when we realised we personally couldn't help every graduate or business that needed our support. So we set up a mentoring program which has been very successful, and graduates have to show that they've tried. They have applied for jobs and they've been unsuccessful, they've talked to people and they're still not getting anywhere, and then we will then pair them up with a professional, whether that's somebody who can help them make a decision on where they want to go, or perhaps they want to get into finance, and we'll pair them with a financial person who can actually guide them. And that's proving very successful and rewarding. And it's brought me in touch with a lot of different people. And because we are a very inclusive organisation, it's brought me in touch with more autistic graduates, other people who are struggling for whatever reason, feeling marginalised. And I enjoy that. That gives me great satisfaction, pairing them up with a mentor, because the mentor's getting challenged as well, and they benefit too. And then the business, whoever we can manage to get them working with, benefits too. They all learn something.
So I'm going to take you back a couple of steps. And so you joined the Scottish Centre for Scottish Public Policy, and then it says that you spun out, adopted an intern maybe about a year later. What was the drive or the impetus for you to do that? Because that's a big, that's a change, isn't it? Change.
Yes, pushing it out. Well, it started slowly because I was very protected within the think tank, within the Centre for Scottish Public Policy, and it was easy. I had lots of people around me, supporting me, a great team, and once I had taken it forward, it wasn't such a difficult decision in the end, because we got quite big and the think tank was quite small, and the money that was coming in we needed to almost protect in a way. I think the board also, they didn't want to have to keep talking about interns. They were, talking about policy, and here I was coming along with quite major decisions to make about an intern program. So it became quite clear we needed to move out. So that was probably the driver on that one.
And how has it grown since then?
Yes, definitely grown. We've expanded. We've done an awful lot of different things over the years. So there's a lady asking a question.
Oh, sorry, Margaret.
No, it's okay. I'll wait till you finish. I just have a question.
Sorry, I need to remember.
Oh, you're trying to catch Lisa's eye. Okay. So yes.
So has your own organisation grown as well as the impact of the work that you've done? Have you built a team within
The team has, well, clearly the team has grown, but we've remained quite small. We're a very what's the word?
Lean?
Lean. That's exactly the word, Lisa. We are so lean. We remain at 5. I've got several other consultants that I pay, HR shortlisters, people like that, accountants, bookkeepers. But we remain 5 core at the moment. We've been up to 7 at the height of our government funding, but 5 seems to be a good number. And so that kind of growth has been very pleasing for me, especially bringing on my own staff. And but as far as what we do has grown, I should go back a little bit if you're happy for me to do that. So when I was with the think tank, we were taking on a lot of unpaid graduates who just were desperate for work. And for me, it didn't feel right, it didn't sound right, and a lot of the people who were in the think tank were uncomfortable with it too, but weren't quite sure what to do about it. It was just the in thing. So when I started to talk to my then boss, Ross Martin, about this, he said, well, let's protect them with an internship program, but I wanted to take it bigger. And with the help from the team, I went out to the members, and the response from the members was quite significant. They started to really throw money at this. They wanted to hear how they could access these graduates. So for me, the drive was then, oh my goodness, there are businesses who will want to benefit from talented graduates, and there's no bridge. That was quite inspirational. Let's do that bridge. There was nothing at the time. This was late 2009. And then I decided to go to the universities to find out what they were doing. And one of the most inspirational things there was I spoke to a receptionist at Strathclyde University, I think it was, and she said, I know who to talk to. I know who you should be talking to. I'll put you through in a minute, but first, can you help my son-in-law? He's just done a degree in journalism, and he's been out of work for about 6-7 months. We're worried about him. He's a bit depressed. And that was also an enlightening moment, because there was not just a graduate, but there was a family being affected by this too. And so the knock-on effects was quite amazing. So he became the first graduate that we placed. And I'm in touch with him today, and I'm very proud of him. He's done a great job. So then I think the next thing that happened was I placed him with a company called Young Company Finance. I don't know if you've heard of Young Company Finance. Jonathan Harris, who I had previously worked with. I did some marketing and event work with him, and hence my passion for startups. And I brought that to Adopt an Intern, and when I went to government with my little pilot placement of six graduates, it was to get funding for those startups. And that's what most of the money that we got from government went on. Over half went on the wages for those startups.
And it's, correct me if I'm explaining it wrong, but it's creating a level playing field. So it's not just the graduates that can afford to work unpaid.
That's what it's all about. You know, I felt this sense of injustice that they weren't being paid. But now I understand it was deeper too, from the story I've just told you, that I realised that what about all the other parents that can't afford to cover the rent of those graduates who weren't being paid, that can't afford to pay the food of those graduates that we weren't paying. So there was no access there for graduates from other socio-economic backgrounds. And that became my bugbear, that it had to be open, transparent, inclusive. So, yeah.
Did you have a question?
So my question was, when you talked about being spun out of the policy unit, did that mean was created, you owned 100% of the shares of it, and off you went, creating your own future?
Oh, I wish. Sounds wonderful. Wait, I went wrong. I went badly wrong there, didn't I?
What does spun out mean?
Okay, so
Was it just from one government agency to another, or what did that
yeah,
mean?
that's a fair question. So within the think tank was not even a quango. I mean, it was simply an organisation that paid for itself through membership. When I spun out, I decided I wanted to be a social enterprise. I didn't want to be a charity. I didn't want to be a private organisation. I wanted to be a not-for-profit, so that all my money that I got in could go to supporting the graduates from all backgrounds. And so I chose the social enterprise route. So I spun it out into I think that it's called a company limited by guarantee.
Could I ask a subsequent question? So who owned the shares?
There are no shareholders.
Or there are no
No, our board is a voluntary board.
It's a voluntary board.
Yes, so no money is made.
You do now charge for the services,
Yes.
but
Yes.
then be invested into
Yeah.
that you run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when I started, I told you I went to government and got some funding from them, and because there was nothing like it. I know there are other little programs now, but at the time there was nothing like it. And so they funded us, and they funded us then for 7 years, which was very kind of them. I knew it was going to come to an end, and it did last year. But they gave us plenty of warning. So they funded the wages of startups and small charities, but the bigger companies always paid for the wages. So I was only ever part funded, but they did cover quite a bit of core. So when I knew they were going to cease to fund me, I'd always wanted to be sustainable, but I'd never had the time because government kept giving me targets to reach. It was quite a relief actually to know that we could be our own bosses. And so we started to charge for our services. And we were very lucky because, of course, so many of our businesses had loved what we'd done. They were repeat business. And to this day, 50% of our business is repeat business. That they started to come back and pay. We started a bit too low. I had a big learning curve on the old charging front, and it's never comfortable. We were not salespeople. We've had to re-educate the team I've had to re-educate my thinking. So that is one route that we go down. And the other route that we've now still want to do, because of course we can't fund startups now, which is one of my saddest things, and we're very keen to do that. But what we can do is get funding from other areas. I had thought maybe just do the private sector, just get enough money in to support us. But it doesn't work like that because I can't help the minorities. So getting funding of government, of businesses, enables me to help other people. So while we're doing our day job of getting graduates into work with businesses, we also get funding, or we apply for funding from government and businesses. So for example, we have one at the moment, a very excellent boss, employer. He's taken on 3 graduates himself, a small family business, and big shout out for EVMT Progress, thank you. Gave us some sponsorship. He couldn't do any more, couldn't take on any more into his firm, so he gave us a down payment of some money and said, what would you like to do with it? And I'd always wanted to support disabled graduates. We get above applications in from disabled graduates, and I know they get to interview because I hear that from the employer, but they don't get past the employer for some reason, even though they made it on their own merit. We don't know they're disabled when they get put through. So I wanted to try and equal that balance and try and give both the employer and the graduate, empower them to get through those difficult interviews with the right questions. So that's what we're working on now through surveys. And then with a piece of government funding we got, government's trying to lower the wage gap and working with women returners. So we made a bid, but we've worked with women returners for 8 years now. And
you call that return ships?
Return ships, yes. Yes, it's not our phrase, I wish it was, but I think, was it PwC got in there? Goldman Sachs got in there and trademarked it, so yes, but it's a nice phrase. No, it's okay, I haven't lost my thread yet. We went, and so I bid to help black and minority ethnic women, again, more marginalised than women returners. I told you I love a challenge. And it has been, but it's been a great challenge. We've thoroughly enjoyed it. And we're working with these ladies now, and as well as companies that come on board. So I said to the government we'd work with manufacturers on this. So we're working with Diageo, come on board, Highland Spring, thank you guys. Drink Biotic, Mara Seaweed, startups, and Turtle. You heard of Turtle? Yeah. So they've all come on board. So if you know any other manufacturers or you yourselves would be interested, then I'm happy to talk to you about that.
So that leads me to a question that I'm really interested in. So you said that startups have been a route where have actually had good success, in bringing in interns. So you're starting up a business. When's a good time to bring on an intern and start to build your team? And what are the benefits of that to a startup?
So I don't think it's ever too late or too early to bring on some support. I was saying to some of you today that I have a great belief in putting the oxygen mask on yourselves right at the beginning. So my theory is, and I advise many people to do this, is think of all the weight you have on your shoulders as a startup. And I'm very aware of that, having started myself. So I advise them to take on, it could be a graduate, a talented graduate, somebody with some experience, some knowledge, maybe a mature student, somebody who can help you. Take that load off and run with some of your ideas, or tell you to forget that idea. Just have a bit of power so to stop you running around so that you can focus on what you're doing. Once that person is in place, your first person, then you can start to think about getting in some expertise. Yeah, then you can sit down with some time while they're running around and just focus on the business. And it's the start of you being on the business as opposed to in the business. It takes a while. I mean, I'm still in the business and it's been a while, 8 years now. But it's a good start to make, and I wish I'd done it myself. So it's never too early. Yes?
Have you ever adopted an intern in your own business?
I have adopted 15. It might even be 16 now, but I'm so pleased I did. Well, firstly, we practice what we preach, but they have gone on to some amazing things. And one of my first interns is about to get married, and I've been invited. You know, it's this kind of thing that they have gone on to some wonderful things. One's with Rolls-Royce, another one went on to Interpol. We've got one gone to Nicaragua, one's gone to Canada, one went to China. They gained confidence with us that they could move on. And I pride ourselves in encouraging them to use their time with us, to look, to shake a lot of hands, to get out there and network and look for what they want to do next, to look for their niche. That doesn't apply to you, Nick. You're not an intern, you're staying put. But that's what we do with our interns.
Has anyone else here benefited from intern programs in their own businesses, or is anyone thinking about it? Yeah.
I started my own design consultancy 2 years ago. First person I took on was an intern.
Well done.
And I've done that because I wanted to change the tide. I took them on and paid them at least £1,000 a month for what they were doing, because I despise the fact that big companies were not paying.
God, man after my own heart. Just makes me.
They're full-time staff now.
They're full-time staff. That's what happens, isn't it? Yes, I've taken many on as well, but yeah, that's fantastic news. Sir at the back.
Can I ask a question? How do you distinguish between kind of a graduate, somebody that's just finished their degree and could go off and get into a graduate scheme at PwC or the like, and somebody perhaps that's still at university or wants to do an internship over the summer, for example, to get that experience? Do you see people that are graduating as being people that need to have that opportunity for experience as well?
It's a good question. We specialise in graduates who've left university because they're the ones that are looking for employment. I think a summer internship is slightly different. That's somebody who's taken the bull by the horns and says, I want some experience under my belt before I leave. And that's great. And we do that, we'll advertise those too. But what I'm really trying to do is help the underemployed, the unemployed, those that are finding it hard. And a student, you know, they're going to be okay, and if they're not, they can come to us when they're not. But I don't otherwise distinguish. We encourage fourth-year students to apply if they want to. They've got to compete against graduates, and we don't have an age limit, so I've placed a 54-year-old. But what we do is we're very transparent, as I said, so they have to be proactive. There's no one sitting at home watching the telly waiting for us to call them and say, here's a job you should apply. They have to be monitoring our site, they have to be proactive, and then I can say to an employer, this person really wants your job. Does that answer your question?
And do you also think that, for example, summer interns who are looking for experience, do you think everybody deserves to be paid?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. Summer internships are paid. When they come through us, they're paid. Every employer that comes to us wants to work with us because they're seen as an employer who pays their interns.
And have you met employers that haven't paid interns or are stubborn about paying interns, and what are the reasoning and how have you dealt with that?
Their reasoning is, but they've asked to work for nothing, so why would I pay them? It's unbelievable. I never know what to say. I struggle with that. You and I know that if a person is paid, they feel valued. They feel part of the team. They contribute more because they feel part of the team. Their self-esteem is improved. An employer is going to get somebody then that respects them. And in this day and age, when everyone's got a mobile and a mouse, they're going to go and say bad things about that employer because everybody knows they should be paying. It's legal now. You have to pay, although everyone's getting away with it. It's not enforced. And I wouldn't want to pay the PR bill to think about, you know, some of the things that's happened really in certain coffee houses, you know. I wouldn't want to have to pay that bill. So why retrospectively try and claw back your reputation when all you need to do is pay everyone and they'll go and sing your praises. They are your ambassadors.
Did you have a question, Michael?
Yeah. On that, just relating that to maybe a lot of people in the room that have started a business. I know that when I started my business, I either did work for free to prove I was good at what I was, and if I wasn't good, lose money in some cases, just what is part of the journey, right, is kind of messing up. And if I was a student, I was never a student either. If I was a student, I would be kind of hungry for that opportunity just to prove myself and just to get that experience. What is the limit of the morality of unpaid? Because I know that I totally agree with what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like getting people in and pushing paper and doing really boring, unsatisfying, not really getting any experience, in the placement that you've been given. What would you say is the limit of the morality when you're that hungry and you're really just looking for that opportunity?
You've expressed that so well. I can feel the tears coming to my eyes. The morality, yes. You know what? No, sorry, not at all. No, not at all. No, not at all. I've felt so many people's pain on that front. They want to work. They desperately want to prove themselves. What do? They can't afford to work for free. That's the sad thing. You could, but there are so many people out there that can't. So that's the difference. Now, if you can and you want to, I'm not going to say you shouldn't. That is your choice. But so many people don't have that choice. So by offering your services to a business, that business will take it. Of course they will. But then perhaps there's somebody better, more able, who needs to be paid, but could do that job. Untapped talent. Indeed. There is one thing, you talk about moral here, volunteering. There is nothing wrong with volunteering. If you have money behind you, then why not volunteer? We need volunteers. So there's a difference between volunteering and doing an unpaid job. So that would be, for me, that's the difference.
What is the difference between volunteering and working unpaid in a commercial business?
Well, volunteering is often seen to be in the third sector, and it really is. But if you are going to do a job and you offer your services, you are volunteering yourself. So I'm using that in the broadest spectrum. But the other thing, of course, is if you're just going to shadow someone, you're not going to do any work, you're just going to be there, that's legal. You don't have to be paid for shadowing, for making tea. But as soon as you are working and throwing yourself into it, then legally you should be paid. So I have to be careful not to judge anybody that does it. I understand why they do it. But if we want an inclusive society,
it's that access to opportunity, isn't it?
It has to be equal opportunity.
I liken it to education in my head. So we pay universities a considerable sum of money outside of Scotland, of course, to be educated in certain things. And I only learned through being in business.
How to do it.
And I did a joinery apprenticeship, I suppose, and that left that. So learning in the private sector, I suppose, is what I did.
What you did.
Yeah. So I put merit personally in that sort of learning in the real world, and I wonder what your view is on that and the merit of that.
I would like to see every university getting that. Now, for example, in Germany, 3% graduate unemployment. Literally, there is no graduate unemployment. Why? Every graduate does an internship during their university course, which means they then go on to a job. It's almost guaranteed. They've got that experience behind them, or the person they did the internship with is going to take them. So you've shown initiative, but I wish that universities did that for you. And they are starting to. That is becoming a thing now. Yeah. And that's what I'd like to see. So you're right. Of course you need that experience. You want that private sector experience. Yeah. People who want to work in the public sector, they should be able to get that experience. But if you're doing it within your university course, you're not going to need to be paid. That's the other thing. Legally, if it's part of your course, not a summer internship, but part of your course that's aiming for your degree, you wouldn't need to be paid. So that's one way around getting that experience. And that's what I'd like to see happening.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Did we have another question, Tess?
Yeah, so, I've actually, for a period of 3 to 6 months, I've tried to help young students who are non-graduate haven't graduated yet to work with small, medium businesses and get like the minimum national wage. Same way they work for Starbucks or whatever, but work for what they love to do, learn why they work and provide some by you from the employer. The biggest challenge when it comes to employers, or the biggest excuse that I came across is, but we need to train them, and oh yeah, we'll pay less, but can we afford this 20 hours a week? And I'm like, and then when it comes to people like us, we can learn by ourselves. But a lot of people I've discovered when I was working with young students, they can't. It's just some people don't have the ability to yet learn by themselves. So they need people like us to actually show them the way. So it's these two challenges that I found. Oh, we need to invest money and time to train them. At the same time, they can't learn many things by themselves. I'm like, how do you deal with these excuses?
Well, actually, I haven't heard that one.
You haven't heard?
No, you know, a lot of people who do that are going down an apprenticeship route, where they are expected to train them, and therefore they know that that graduate is not going to be working immediately, and they're going to have to go away to college, and they're not always going to be in situ. But they're getting government grants for that, so they cope with it. And they know that in the end, hopefully that person will stay on. But the training that, when we speak to an employer, our employers come to us with a need. I don't go to an employer comes to us. So they already have a need.
They have a project that needs delivered or work that needs
Absolutely. It's often a project. It could be maternity leave. It could be a short-term project. We do permanent staff as well, but it's usually a project, an urgent project that they need doing. And they are ready to train up somebody. And if they're not, they ask us to find someone with more experience. And then we'll go and help or find somebody who's got a bit more experience behind them. Or maybe done a second degree or something, because I want the business to benefit from this as well. Now, most of what we do, you know, it can be a fresh graduate because they've said we'll train them on the job, but they know what they're going to get out of them. And if they do that piece of training, they're going to get that project done, and they're going to hopefully keep that graduate on.
So for employers having taken on interns or starting to build their teams, what would be your advice for them to get the most out of this talent?
Well, when I take on new people, I take them on because they've got a talent that I don't have. And they are there to make me look good, really. You know, hide my weaknesses. And I can vouch for that because Nick, my marketing guy, is here today. And a lot of the words that I'm using nowadays, he's given me at one stage or other. You know, he's formulated what I'm trying to say. So people have talents that I don't necessarily have.
So would you say self-awareness is important?
Absolutely, that's exactly where I was going. So know your weaknesses and hire for that. And I let them know, you know, you're here to make me look good. Thank you for doing that. But nurture them. And I think when you're taking on an intern, one of the real top tips here is talk to them, communicate with them. Don't let them do their full 3 or 4 months without actually each month telling them how they're doing. You know, if you suddenly think, actually, I might keep them on, let them know. Let them know that the stakes, you know, the game's up now. They might just be able to stay on. They'll perform even better.
For startups, if they're taking on their first team member as maybe an intern or somebody, and it's maybe their first experience of having somebody work with them in that way, how would you suggest, like, you've been nurturing ideas so closely for so long, like delegating tasks and responsibility and knowing where to, like, if you're a perfectionist, pedantic about things, where you're like cutting the line and being like,
You're talking about me, aren't you? I can see it.
I'm talking about myself.
I know.
So yeah, like how, like what in your own experience, like how have you managed that when you build?
Well, I'm quite long in the tooth now, and it took me a long time.
Yeah.
I've been on endless leadership courses and all sorts. You hear it a lot. Let go.
Yeah.
Let go. You've all heard it. And it is so hard when it's your baby. And you listen to people in the room, your team, you listen to them, and they're going off at tangents, and you want to go, no, come back in. But you have to let them. You have to let them go. Have a chat, go, and you might rein them in a little bit once they've had a go and you realise it's not going in the right direction. Give them some boundaries. That's the answer. Set some expectations and then say, right, if you haven't achieved this in 2 months, come back and we'll talk again. about that project. So give them a bound, give them a couple of weeks. Say, go, okay, I don't mind you talk about it for 2 weeks, then come back and tell me how far you've got. And then you just get a little bit braver and braver and let go more and more. But it's hard. It takes a while, but you can do it.
Yeah, that's really good, thank you.
Another question like that?
I thought it was really interesting what you were saying about 3% unemployment in Germany. It strikes me
Graduate unemployment.
most employers can't employ people, and it's a real difficulty to get good people.
Get talent.
Yeah, to get talent. So there must be something badly wrong in the system if you've got all these people that are struggling to find work and all these employers that are saying you don't have the skills that we need, or we don't know that you exist. So what is different about Germany other than?
Well, as I said, their graduates go through an internship program while they're at university, so that gives them such an advantage by the time they leave. It's very well organised, needless to say, being Germany, very thorough.
From the government also have like some, the German government usually has some, they help the companies.
Funding for companies could well be. I'm not sure. We did a German exchange with them actually, so quite aware of how they work. But I think also it's quite a wealthy nation. They don't have too much problems on that front at the moment.
That's brought me on to one of my other questions actually. So, adopt an intern at the moment. You're Scotland focused?
Yeah, we are Scotland focused because we're based here, but my aim is to, is this where you're going, Lisa, before I jump the gun? My aim is to spread it a little further. We've started working in London now and Middle England. We've got 2 adverts up now, one for Scottish Government now down in London, and another startup called Ignition Financial, which is a 2-year-old startup, so quite pleased about that. So expanding down there because they, for me, the main reason being they are the hub of unpaid internships. And that is going to take a bit of conquering, but I am determined.
Is that the sector where you see a lot of it? Finance?
It's finance, it's media, it's retail, and it's not good. So I think we have to start slowly and build up. And I know that in Scotland now, you very rarely hear of unpaid internships. Really got the culture, but they do still exist. But certainly our audience is mainly here. And I think looking ahead, I'd quite like to go abroad, maybe Germany. You know, I don't think that's quite the right place at the moment, but Spain, Portugal, these countries are going to have problems in unemployment. So I'd like to try and take a version of Adopt an Intern over there. One day, that's my 10-year vision.
And I've just got a few more questions and then we'll open it up again to the floor if there's more. But I would like to take it back to you a little bit again. So
Okay.
we talk about the personal journey of our speakers. And so what have been some of the things that have scared you most as you've been growing Adopt an Intern?
Scared me most. This stuff scares me most. Being the face of Adopt an Intern really scares me. I struggle
on
with
TV
it.
recently, were you? Is that right?
Yes. I don't know how it happened. I blame Nick, but I'd been on radio. I think that's what it was. Sometimes I'm hearing the radio. Someone rings in and says, "Joy, Kay Adams is talking about unpaid internships," and ring up. So I sweat buckets. I get on the radio and I do my piece. It's very uncomfortable, but I do it, and it works, and I'm fine with it because I know my stuff. But I have to go through those pain barriers. But I think it was through that STV heard about us, and they came back recently and said, "Would you be on the 1 o'clock news?" So you have to say yes. So I had another conference. But when I got out, another controller came out from another room and all excited and saying, "Oh, that was great. Will you be on 7 o'clock news?" I said, "Oh, no." Fortunately, I had a flight to catch. So I said, "No, but Nick can do it." So Nick went on because he was there with me. That was brilliant. So thank you, Nick. But yes, comfort zones, and that's all very difficult for me. But taking that further about things that have gone wrong.
Yes. That was my next one too.
Was it? Things that that I do differently. Well, this one isn't something I can do differently because I can't really change the way I am. But recruitment, you wouldn't believe it, would you? Here I am. I've placed over 1,400 graduates into successful internships, and 74% are going on to permanent work. And I still get it wrong myself, recruiting. So I've made a few recruitment errors, and I've looked into it. How does this happen? And I realised that there is no 100% success rate for taking on new people into your team. Even if you do all the right things and you recruit for values and someone's recommended to you, sometimes the fit just doesn't work, and you don't know that until they're there. I beat myself up, but actually, I don't know if there's anything I could have done or anyone else could have done over the years, because I keep making those mistakes. I call them mistakes. Nowadays, you can't call them failures. You always learn from them. But what I've learned is not to beat myself up about it, that you are going to make recruitment mistakes. Everybody does. And it's something I say to my employers. Look, if this doesn't work out, it should do, because we've done this, we've done that, we've recruited for cultural fit, for values, you should be fine. But if it goes wrong, we're still there. Come back. We'll look at other people on that shortlist to see if they can do the job, or we'll re-advertise. So you have to acknowledge that it's not always going to work. So that's a big thing.
Fantastic, thank you. And my last question before I open up to the floor would be, and we've already had loads of nuggets already, it's been fantastic, but what would be your top 3 tips for entrepreneurs in terms of building?
Well, just going back to that last one, I need to say hire quickly and fire. No, hire slowly, fire quickly. That would be that tip there, but three other tips. Be a values-led company, because it's really important right now that when you're hiring, especially the millennials, they're not looking to go to PwC as much as they used to be. Going on a graduate program is not everyone's ideal nowadays, so you can take advantage of that. They want to work with people who they know are values-led.
Would you say that's a differentiator?
Definitely. It's definitely becoming more and more one. So get your values, just 3, maximum 5, on your website so that everyone can see them.
Does AI have values?
We do. We have 3 core values. You can. I've got it kept at 3 because I've got a bad memory. So the first one is you won't be surprised. Justice. Fairness, of course, because it's all about, for me, making sure that everyone has access, the same access to these opportunities. So that's our first one. Our second one is an entrepreneurial spirit. So that's not going to surprise you either. We have to be really flexible with what we do. I don't have any rules and regulations. I hate T&Cs. Rules are there to be broken, so I don't have an age limit. I'll work with any graduate. I'll listen to all their stories. So you have to have an entrepreneurial spirit. And thirdly, customer, people focused. It's all about the people. And we have 2 sets of clients, clearly. We have the graduate and we have the employer. And at the back of my mind, we have the parents of the graduate too. So we get testimonials from employers, from graduates, and from parents who are so grateful.
Because I love that. So you may know, with Startup Grind, some of our values are what really resonates with me. So one of the key ones is make friends, not contacts.
Nice.
And give, don't take, because it leads on to,
Absolutely.
future things, but it's more about making connections.
What you give out, you get back. I'm a great believer too.
Absolutely.
So values-led was my first one.
Yep.
I think the second one is, it can be an emotional roller coaster, and I'm sure most of you have been through that already. But what I've found is that every high that I've had, I've got to the top and I've known that there's going to be a low. I'm not going to stay there, so I set that expectation. And when I'm down, equally, I know that I can only go up. So I know it's going to be like this all the way through. So what you have to do is just draw a line through those wavy curves and try and keep yourself on a very even keel. not go up when it's up and not go down with the low, stay there. And if you set that expectation for yourself, it does get easier. It might be a little bit wavy, but it won't be you following your lows and your highs. And my third tip, again, you won't be surprised, it's be brave. You've heard my STV story now. I do have a very inner core, which is all about bravery, but then we have these little onion peel as well, which blocks that sometimes, and you have to fight and get it out of the way to show your brave side. I think that being brave is what entrepreneurs need to do, and hiring too takes a lot of courage, especially when it's your first intern. So hats off to you, your first employee, and hats off to those that have managed.
Yeah, I think we talked about that, about being brave when we caught up to prep for this, and you said something about children and they're born brave. Did you say that?
I probably did. Sounds like a very good quote, but I can't remember what I was referring to.
Sometimes life knocks it out of us, and it's that.
Yes, that's very true, isn't it? Does anybody feel that they were born brave?
I don't know. I have a little one, she's one, and they get taught the knocks, don't they?
Ah, yes, I see what you're meaning now. Yes, of course we did. I remember.
You did see it.
I did. Yeah. No, I think that's right.
I took a lot from it. It was good.
Yes, it was likening ourselves to a child is very brave. They don't know any different, do they? They'll touch a fire. They'll do it. It's only us that say, don't do that, don't do that. So we are making them less brave. And I think we kind of have to revert to our childhood and remember how we were then and start making some
And that goes back to entrepreneurship, doesn't it?
Oh,
cool. A lot of entrepreneurs, if they didn't take risks, wouldn't get to where they are.
Yes, it's all about risks. It's all about risks. Jumping, leaping in, and then handling the damage afterwards. But,
So I've probably got time for two more questions at the most afterwards. I don't know if there are any more. We've had quite a few already through the chat, but does anyone else have more? No? Oh, okay, thank you. Well, I'm going to ask the gentleman there. So yes,
you mentioned before that you're doing mentoring program. How do you justify students that can actually apply or get a mentor?
yeah, so we asked them to fill out a form that shows, it's online, and it shows that they have tried to find work. We asked them who they've spoken to and what jobs they've applied for. I need them to have made an effort, not just say, oh, this is all too difficult, I'll get a mentor. They have to have tried. And once they've proven to us, and we've had a chat with them and we think they qualify, we will then introduce them to somebody. So on the whole, so somebody might apply to us 6 times and not get anywhere because their CV's rubbish. We'll then get hold of them and we'll say, let's help you with your CV, let's help you with the cover letter. But if we still hear or feel that there is something that's sticking for them, and that just might be a confidence thing, mentor, that's the way to go, just to bring them, make them more confident.
How do you recruit your mentors?
They're all voluntary, and they come to us. So a lot of our employers, we're happy to take on mentors all the time, of course. Yeah, everybody has qualities that will help young people. I'm sure you know that. But yeah, always.
And have we got time for one more question? I saw a couple of other hands. Yep.
Being a student myself, what skills is it that employers are looking for that will make them able to be employed? You said most people aren't training them when they come out on it. So what should they be teaching them in university? What should universities be teaching?
In order to go into the workplace.
Yeah,
Yes.
good question.
Yes. Well, it's hard, isn't it? I mean, as I said, in 2009 when I started this, universities didn't contact university students after they left. It wasn't their job to find them a job. So they just left. It's only now that they're being asked by government to help graduates who've left university get into work. So now they're thinking, how do we train them and make them work ready? Now it means more to the universities. And they're thinking along the same lines as you're thinking. But the kind of things that we hear from our employers are, they turned up in jeans and a t-shirt. Now, you could argue that that's something that their parents should have taught them, or perhaps school uniform should have made them think, maybe turn up to work in a suit or smarter anyway. But I think the university could be the place for that. The other thing that, I'm not saying they ought to have the suits, they have to turn up looking like the job. So if that's jeans and a t-shirt for a job, that's great. But if it's not and everyone's in a suit and they turn up looking, there has to be a reason for that, and an employer is not terribly well equipped to handle that. So I think that could be something done at school and university. I think the other thing that our employers say is that a lot of students aren't usually very good at timekeeping. They don't seem to think that's important. Now that's not something that I feel Adopt an Intern can talk to people about, but certainly they shouldn't be leaving university without knowing that when you get a job, timing is very important.
I don't know if this is just me, but both of them to me sound obvious because people have told me, but what sort of skills?
Skills.
When you employ people to make you look good, what sort of skills are you employing them based on?
You're right to bring me back to skills. I was reluctant to go too deep into them because every employer wants something different. You know, I can say that they want soft skills, right? They want you to be able to speak nicely on the phone. They want you to be able to hold a conversation, get on with your teammates. These are soft skills that, you need. And I think university isn't doing much about that. So certainly you can check in and find out, ask other people how you come over. But every employer wants something different as far as a skill goes. So clearly they come to us and they want digital skills. Most jobs now require digital skills, so that's really handy. Because employers my age are not digitally aware, so we're desperate for young people to come in and help us. The other thing I think, if for young people, is if they've got IT skills, tech specialisms, engineering. These are things that every employer wants right now.
And keeping ahead of trends, I guess, in that time.
Absolutely, yeah, keeping ahead. So I think soft skills you can really work on. I think that is important. And then the other ones, if you're not doing that at university, you're not doing it. And you can only apply to a job where your skills fit. But I am a great one for transferable skills, and most people have got those. And certainly working with women returners now, they don't understand that their time with their family has given them organisational skills, negotiating skills, patience, and it's the same with you. Going through university, you've got an awful lot of transferable skills, and you need to get that over to an employer, and that makes you more employable. Have I answered your question a little better there?
I think that's a topic we could probably talk on a lot more, but I've got some good insights there. That was really helpful, so thank you, Joy, and thanks for your question. What I would like to do now is welcome my co-director, Marlene, who basically helps enable these events to be able to happen. And Marlene is I'm just going to do a bit of a wrap-up for us, please,
yes,
if
so
that'd be okay.
I've got to say that's got to be such an interesting talk. And we're looking at starting things like that as well, and it's really nice to hear how you got started and just the passion that you have for Adopt an Intern just bleeds out, and it's amazing. We want to say a big thank you to the sponsors and the people that work with us as well. So ESS Startup, I have to have my notes by the way, sorry, are a specialist recruitment agency, and they specialise on Scotland's technology, SME and startups. Then we've got Scintilla, who are patent attorneys, and we have got Peter here, who says he's more than happy to have a friendly chat with anyone. He's not scary.
He's not, exactly not.
We've got Gillespie McAndrew as well, who are a full-service law firm, and they look at a wide range of advice. We've got Chris, Sarah, and Ross here. Have I missed anyone?
And 4Bytes.
Oh yes, and 4Bytes. So they create opportunities with software development, helping their client partners solve problems. I am from 4Bytes, but we also have our CEO Don here from Sweden, so attack him if you like as well.
In a nice way.
Then we've got Codebase, who have provided just an amazing place for us to set up as well. It's always very special to come here, and they've kept the fairy lights up from Christmas, which makes me happy. And then Product Forge as well. Jack joined us again today to stream this event. Sorry we didn't warn you, but it's gone amazing. We've had tweets all over saying that people are watching from home, which is just fantastic. Yeah.
I'm glad I didn't know that.
Product Forge are doing a hackathon next month with Shelter Scotland and Safe Deposit Scotland. And they do have a discount, £5 discount for anyone that wants to attend. So if anyone's interested in that, please let me know. And well, we couldn't do this without you guys, so thank you so much for attending and sharing everything. It's great to see so many people that are passionate about Startup Grind like we are. And a huge thank you to Lisa and Joy for giving us just an entertaining evening.
That next but just as a very last mop-up, so we're back again next month here at Cobase, and we have Kai.
Next month,
we're
We are going to be at the Izettle offices, so I will be updating the website with the new address and sending out an email to everyone.
And we're hosting Kai from Charlotte's group. So she was previously the MD of Search Consultancy, taking them up to exit, and now provides coaching and leadership training to early stage and growth businesses. And she's fabulous. I've heard her speak, and she's going to be wonderful. So please come. Thank you. And this is just a little thank you for you.
Oh, a present too. Makes it all worthwhile. Thank you. Oh, that's fine. Brilliant. Right. Pleasure. Right. Right, shall we go and have another drink? That second drink we promised each other. Yeah, it does. No, but you threw me at the beginning.